Hey everyone, today I'm going to go over choices in Power Apps, and not just a normal choice field. I'm going to go over Classic, Modern, Excel, SharePoint, and then we'll see if we can get into Dataverse too. Choices with different data sets or even between Classic and Modern. The way you handle choices is different if you do a choice inside a out of the box form or if you do it not inside the form. Choices are different and there's different ways to complete them. So I wanted to start off with Excel, and I know maybe you think, okay, Excel and Power Apps shouldn't go together, but I feel like there's a few things that you can pick up here. So let's take a look at a choice field in Excel. I've stored an Excel document in a SharePoint library. Now you could do this in OneDrive if you wanted, but I put this in a SharePoint library. If you're going to use it for Power Apps, I would recommend you probably do it in a SharePoint library. Just for collaboration, you could put it in your OneDrive, but a OneDrive, you normally store stuff there for yourself, and then you hit the share button, and it's not for collaboration. So I'm going to open the Excel file in an app, and you can see the Excel file here. Let's see if we can make it full screen. And hopefully a little bit bigger. It's kind of small there. All right, I have an Excel file, and we can see over here are my choices. So this column here is where I want my choice field to be on B here. I'm going to highlight the entire column. I'm going to go to Data tab, and then the data validation right here. I'm going to click on it. It's a little small. I'll try and zoom in here. And then for the allow value, I'm going to say list. And then I'm going to select my source list here. This is my source list. I'm going to hit enter and OK. All right, so on the title field, we're fine. On these other ones, we can choose some different foods that become our favorite foods from the drop-down list. So maybe cheesecake, eggs. I just kind of pick some things. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, he loves tacos. Okay, so we've selected some things in our Excel document. Now, one thing you have to be particularly careful about is when you use Excel with Power Apps, you need to make sure that your table, so in the Table tab, Table Design here, you need to check the table name, right? So if I highlight the left table, it's Table 2. It's pretty small there. On the right side, it says Table 4. So I'm going to rename my table here, and we'll call it my favorite food. So now I've named that table, and we're going to see that in Power Apps on the Power Apps side. And then I'm just going to save it. So when I click save here, it's saving it to SharePoint because that's where I opened it at. So now let's check out Power Apps. So I'm on Power Apps on a brand new Power App, blank one. Now I get a lot of questions about choices, and it's always changing because the way you do a choice could be different in different data sources, or if you're in Classic or in Modern. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the data on the left side. And I'm going to connect to Excel. And it's going to be Excel Online for Business. And I have two sets of credentials. All right, so I'm going to choose where the Excel is located. So I'm going to grab my site URL, and I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to choose Connect. And so we know that it's in my document library. And this is my Excel file called Choices Excel. And now this is where we named our table. So that's where this is kind of helpful. We named our table, and it's called My Favorite Food, and we're going to connect. And when you use Excel, you can auto-generate an ID. I'll show you that later, but pretty much it makes what's called a GUI, an ID in your Excel table that kind of lets Power Apps know which row you're on. So I'm just going to say connect. But when I try to connect, it didn't load and it gave me an error. And the error doesn't really help. It says this won't work because it'll move cells in the table. I'm not going to delete this from the video. We're going to go over this error. The reason is I have two tables on the same row. And I'm pretty sure I need to move my secondary table to another sheet. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it to another sheet. And so all the data is there, and I'm going to resave. So it was trying to put in that auto-generated ID, but this other table was here, and it was getting confused, and it was like, hey, we can't allow that. All right, so now let's retry it again in Power Apps. So I'm going to add data, documents, choices, my favorite food. Now when I connect and generate this ID, now it allows me. It's because there was two tables in the same sheet and it was like trying to line them up and it couldn't push it out because of the other table. Okay, so now let's take a look. If we go to just an out-of-the-box form, I'm going to do edit form, and I'm going to connect to data, and I'm going to do, in my data source, my Excel favorite food. And now it came in blank for now, but I'm going to do edit fields. I'm going to add my two fields. All right, so we added our two fields. Now, if you notice in Excel, it does not automatically turn into a choice field. So it came in as just, a blank single line field. And I'm going to turn this to new. So default mode is to new. That way we can see it. So you can see in Excel, it didn't turn into a choice field. So let's turn it into a choice field. Now there's a couple options actually when we do this. Now you can do a drop down, or there's more than just even that option. There's many different options. But the two that I'm going to talk about today is either a drop down or a combo box. Now with a drop down, you just get a normal drop down with out of the box functionality. With a combo box, you can search it. You can type in with a search hint text. There's more functionality with a combo box. Also, you can select multiple if you wanted to. So I'm going to unlock it, and then I'm going to delete data card value 2. Now it brings up some red X's. It's no problem. I'm going to insert a combo box. All right, so we have a combo box, and this is classic Power Apps right now. Now, the data that I'm going to have here is I'm just going to click on the data source, my favorite food, and the fields, I'm going to choose favorite food, and then the search text is favorite food. So when we press play, we actually get our choices in there. And it's even letting us select more than one. Now, this may be a problem when writing back to our Excel sheet, but we're not going to get into that. We're going to go to our combo box, and in advanced, we're going to set it to select multiple to false. You only get one favorite food. All right, so right now we can only select one in a combo box. Now, the extra functionality I was talking about with a combo box is being able to search by, just by typing. So that's an extra functionality that you get. Okay, so now we have that in there. If we go back, we see we have a couple red X's. These red X's are just saying, hey, I don't know where this error message should be. It's in this Y value. I'm just going to say, hey, just leave it there. And this red X is saying, hey, my update property is not configured correctly anymore because data card value 2.text is gone. So I'm going to remove data card value 2.text, and we replaced it with combo box 1. Combo box 1 dot selected dot. Now you notice you have two different options here. Because it's a combo box, it's not dot value. It can be favorite food or it can be title. So favorite food. So now we have a nice, very simple form, and I'm going to put in a submit button. So insert a button, submit, and this button is just going to submit form 1. That's all it's going to do. And then we can change the text of the button to say save. All right, so now we can choose to write someone in, maybe, I don't know, Snow White. Favorite food is cheesesteak. We hit save. This now wrote to our Excel sheet. So if we go back to Excel, we open it up, we will then see that we have a new written line in Excel, Snow White cheesecake, and here's that GUI ID, GUI ID that Power Apps does to kind of identify what row we're on. So we then wrote to SharePoint with that. So that's one way to do combo boxes with Excel. All right, so there's one more thing that you notice is once we hit the save button, it didn't go back to a new form. So sometimes a lot of people add a new form in the save button, but in my advice, I would go to advanced and OnSuccess right here. OnSuccess, we can change it on the left side also. OnSuccess, we'll go back to NewForm, form 1. So when we successfully save, we go back to a new form. That way, if there's an error, that you don't go back, right? It stays there and it shows you that there was an error. Okay, so that's one way to do it. Okay, so now we've set up that combo box to read from the Excel sheet. But let's say we wanted something different. Let's say we wanted to define the combo box base manually. So up here in the items property, instead of my favorite food, I'm going to change it to something manual. So I'm going to put square brackets, double quotes, and then we'll do something like a Subway sandwich. And then we'll say, you know, a root beer float. All right, so now that I've changed it and did it manual, it's actually broken the update property because it's no longer .favorite food. It's actually .value. But you know, we could make it say favorite food here if we wanted by turning this into an array. So I will do a squiggly bracket and I will say favorite food, and then I'll do a colon, and I'll put this in back in a squiggly bracket, and I'll do the same thing here, favorite food, and then I'll put it back into a squiggly bracket, and that's going to break it again. So no longer is it .value. Now it's .favorite food. So I changed it back into there. So now we have our two options, a Subway sandwich and a root beer float. So you notice that I kind of made an array here. I could actually add more to it. So I could say type, and we could say this is I don't know, a grain, and then we could say this here type is a drink. So now we've turned that into a multi-option, and so we could say, instead of Subway sandwich and float, we could actually change this to, in the update property, and Microsoft has made everything smaller, so it's going to make it harder for me to show this now. So the update property, we can actually update it to the type. Now we could do more than that. Right now it says it's blank. So if we pick one, let's pick one, a Subway sandwich. And let's try to save this now. So now I'm going to say, save this as, I don't know, Eric. We'll just put a generic name in there and hit save. And notice it wrote grain. So we can actually have people select things and then write the different option based on the array of the results. So let's say we had another column in here. Let's add another column. Let's see, insert. We'll do right here, insert column. And this will be type. So now, this still has the data validation. We're going to remove the data validation from everything. So I'm going to remove it. So now let's go back to Power Apps. Now we added that new column. I'm going to delete the out of the box form, right? We're going to go not out of the box. And I'm going to insert in a text input. That's going to be our title. And the other is the combo box. And both of these are still classic. And then we'll put in a couple labels just so we know what each ones are. Okay, and then we don't want it to say anything, no text input. Now for our items, let's put back in what we had before. All right, so we have our two options in there. Let's check it out. We have grain and drink. Let's change the combo box. So the field that we see is the favorite food. Now what's really neat here is we can actually change the layout. We can change the layout to double. And the secondary text is type. And then the search text is favorite food. Or we can do search text by type. So we press play. It now says Subway sandwich grain, root beer float drink. And so we can search from our combo box. We got to turn on search. So on the right side is searchable. We turn that to true. Now we can search by drink. And so if we had multiple drinks in there, let's add another drink in there. So we'll do another one of type, drink, and we'll just say favorite food is milk. And another squiggly bracket. And we need a comma here. Okay, so now we have some options in there. Oh, and I've already done it with drink. I'm already searching by drink. So you notice we have 3 options in there now. So if I search by grain, it's only going to pull up the Subway sandwich. But if I search by drink, it's then searching multiple under the type of drink. So now let's change our save button. Instead of submit form, now we're going to patch. And what are we going to patch? We're going to patch our Excel document called My Favorite Food. And the record that we're going to patch is a new record. So we're just going to put in here favorite food. And there's one more thing I forgot to do. I have to update or refresh my data source. So I'm going to refresh my data source. And favorite food is going to be our combo box. 5 this time. You can see that it's named 5 down here. Combo box 5.selected.favorite food. And then we can also do the type is combo box 5.selected.type. And then we forgot our title. We'll do the title also. So before each of those, I'll do the title is equal to text input 1.text. All right, so we're updating 3 columns now with 2 fields. So let's put in, I don't know, Popeye. I want it to say root beer float. And so we could choose milk in here. It looks like we turned back on multiple choice. Let's turn multiple choice back on. When we added it back, we're going to say select multiple is false. All right, so now I can choose milk and I can choose root beer float. I can not search by drink and I can choose Subway sandwich. So we'll do the new one, milk, Popeye. It probably should be spinach, shouldn't it? So we'll hit save. So now let's check out Excel. With 2 fields, we have just written to 3 columns. So you can see here now, Popeye, milk, drink. 2 fields, we wrote to 3 columns. We wrote the type and the favorite food by using the combo box. So it's really neat the things you can do with a combo box here. By turning on the double when you do edit fields, the layout is now double. And we're using arrays to populate our field. Now, whether you're using Excel or another data source, I believe that's beneficial to you. Learn how combo boxes work. So let's figure out new modern combo boxes. And since it's 2024, Microsoft changed some things. So I went to settings, and now in general, you can turn on the modern controls and themes. So we're going to turn that on, and I'm going to insert now in modern, up here on the right, is the modern. I'm going to insert the new combo box. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just because, just for the YouTube video. So we notice it's called combo box canvas 2. I'll rename this to 1 just to make it simple. So the name has already changed. Some of the functionality is missing currently right now at the beginning of 2024. So if we look at the properties of the old combo box, look at all those properties, a whole lot more. If we look at the new one, there's a lot less properties, but now they have font. I mean, that's new to 2024 for me. They have font size, weight. And if you notice, each of these have a little currently linked with theme. So we can actually change that with the theme. That's huge. Thank you, Microsoft, for finally allowing that. Okay, so you can see allow multiple selection is there, allow searching. Things are sorted better. In advanced, we have a good bit of properties also. I'm not going to go through them all, but they are there. Now, we can see our items property has item 1, item 2, item 3. Let's go ahead and just copy this over and paste it over. So now let's try and update or save from the new modern. So instead of combo box 5, we're going to say combo box canvas 1, and we're going to do the same thing here. So now we have our options. You notice that it's showing the numbers. That's just something that Power Apps does. When we do edit fields, we need to add the 2 fields here so we have favorite food and type. And now when we press play, we have Subway sandwich. Now I'm pretty sure that maybe at some point Microsoft will add the two views of the combo box, but still, right now we can still write both of those options to our Excel sheet because we've selected multiple in there. So if we actually drag this up to type, you'll notice that the find items is now going to show the type up there. But hidden behind the scenes, even though we can't show both, we can still write both to the Excel sheet. So here I'm going to change, maybe we'll add one more. So let's add a grain of type. So we'll say wheat bread. So instead of type, we'll say grain. And this will be, or how about a muffin? A muffin. So now we have a few options in here. We have muffin. Let's hit save and check out our Excel sheet. So we're only writing to this one. Pretend this top combo box is not here. Actually, I'll change the visibility property to be false. That way we don't get confused. So we're only doing the bottom combo box here, actually. So technically, really, we could even do one more. We could add in another column if we wanted to, like number. 1. Comma number 2. 3. And 4. Now we need to add this row to our Excel table. So we'll insert here. This will be called number. And then we'll go back to Power Apps and we'll refresh our data source. And literally on our save button, we can actually add number as the combo box canvas dot selected number. So literally now with 2 columns, we can write Spider-Man. We can select one of them like muffin, hit save. And we have a little bit of an error. Let's figure out what it is. I spelled number wrong. So it looks like I added 2 M's. We'll try again. We'll hit save. We'll check out here. And now with 2 columns, we have written to 4, or now with 2 choices, the single line text in the combo box, we've written to 4 different columns. So just wanted to show you the power of combo boxes and how you can add extra data in there and not see all those extra fields in your form. All right, so now let's move on to SharePoint. I'm going to create a new site contents. I'm going to create a new list. And this is going to be our choices list, or favorite food list. Favorite food list. Notice I don't add any spaces yet. This is just over the years, something that I have practiced to do. Now you can come in here and you can add spaces. It's just putting in that underlying data. So now I'm going to go to add a column. I'm going to do a choice field. I'm going to say next. This is going to be our favorite food. Choices, spaghetti, I don't know, meatballs, and soda. So we'll just put a few in there. Now we have these in here with title, never delete title. The reason is because let's say we had something in here like Sandra Bullock and her favorite food is meatballs. So now the reason you don't delete title is because this extra functionality that comes with the title field. You see the 3 dots, the share button, and the comments button. If you delete title, you're going to mess with that extra functionality that you really need. So always rename title if you want it to be renamed to something. Person name. Rename it. Do not delete title. There are ways around it, but don't even mess with all that. So we have person name, Sandra Bullock, and who knows if I spelled her name right. And she has meatballs. But now let's go back to Power Apps. And we'll do a new screen. And this time we're going to insert Classic, because that's the only forms currently right now at the beginning of 2024. And we're going to connect to a new data source. Add data, SharePoint. Okay, and then the data source is going to be our favorite food list. And you can see we have 3 options in here. I'm going to remove attachments because I don't need attachments. And we'll make more space in here. So now we're going to turn this to, by default, new. Now you notice we have spaghetti, meatballs, and soda. All right, so now notice the values that are here in the drop-down. So it's actually not a drop-down. The reason I know is because you see that find items? Look up here in the top. Combo box. It's actually converting it into a combo box. So rarely do I use drop-downs. A lot of the functionality that I want is in that combo box functionality. All right, so you notice this up here, choices. This is what's different from SharePoint. Choices at favoritefoodlist.favoritefood. You see that? So if we were to add our own combo box, not inside the form, we could literally do the same thing. So I'm going to go to this combo box, advanced, and then unlock it. And I'm going to take this choices and put it in my own combo box. It's pulling in the choices from SharePoint. That's very helpful. It's more simple than Excel, right? We had to manually do our choices. So we can then have our choices here. And I'm going to turn off the multi-select. So allow multi-select, turn that off. Okay, so now we have our choices. But notice that we can't really do the extra fields, right? So if we did double the secondary text, it's all just value, right? That's just the out-of-the-box functionality of SharePoint. So if we really wanted to, we could do the same thing we did down here, we did before, and we could change it options where we wrote multiple columns. So now let's check out modern combo box. So if we did a modern combo box, and let's say we connected it, we'll just manually connect it right here. And then replace columns with new ones based on your data, replace them. Okay, so let's see what's in here. So we have, right now, it's just the title of the name. And so for edit fields, we have title, favorite food, and attachments. I'm going to remove attachments. But look, if I drag up favorite food, and then we check the boxes, now we have meatballs in there. So let's add a few more items into our list. Let's say Superman. Okay, so now we have some more options in here. We'll go back to Power Apps, refresh the data source. Now when we go in here, we have meatballs, soda, spaghetti. We can choose our different ones, but let's duplicate it one more time. So I'm going to go back to SharePoint. I'm going to add another person. I don't know, Leonardo. He also likes spaghetti. And exit the grid. I want that to duplicate. So when we go back to Power Apps and I refresh my SharePoint list, and we click play, you'll notice that spaghetti is in there twice, right? We don't want spaghetti to be in there twice. So one way to do that, to fix this problem, is to do a distinct formula of favorite food list. So in the distinct formula, we say distinct, the favorite food list, then we add a comma here, and we say, which column do we want to be distinct? And that's our favorite food. I have to do dot value. I guess that's the last thing I want to show you. Finally, I just want to show you that you can always change the find items text here. So if we turn this to searchable as true, we can then update the value of the placeholder text. I've already updated here, but search, by food name. We can change that text also so we can, see different things. And we probably don't want it to show double. Let's see, to show the single value. And that's how we can do combo boxes. Now, there is more about doing people pickers. And I'm not going to go into that today, but just a tip about people pickers. If you use the Office 365 connection here, Office 365 users, you can have it's easier to use that for searching through your AD than trying to do it through the people picker. So that's all I'm going to leave it here for today. If you want to learn more about choices, if you want me to go to Dataverse, leave me a comment. My name is Andrew Hess. Thank you all for watching. Happy New Year. I'll see you next time.